are these people?
I wanted to show you this, which was just how much the students were left out of the discussions about Gaza protests. All right. And I'm going to link this in the description. I'm not going to read through this whole article. It's really long. But some of the charts and some of the numbers here are stark. All right. In showcasing that 80+%, or in this case, 100% on State of the Union, these are the Sunday shows, who was represented in the 3 weeks that they were on campus encampments and talking about them on the Sunday shows, right? Mostly it was framed from the government and the Zionist perspective. And again, it doesn't surprise you, but 2 students out of 52 writers, only one of whom was a protester, and the other one was on the pro-Zionist side. Isn't that nice? All right. The agenda-setting Sunday morning shows, which historically skew towards government officials, showed no interest in giving airtime to student or activist voices. We're not surprised, but out of 36 one-on-one and roundtable guests across all networks, 29 of them were current or former government officials or politicians, and 5 were journalists. You had 1 academic and 1 think tank rep. Of the 29 government sources, only 6 spoke about even having personal experience with the protests or at the universities in which they represent. All right. It's terrible. All right. No students or activists and only 1 academic were invited to speak on any of the Sunday shows. The 1 academic didn't speak about his own experience with the encampments, but about his research on student safety, which I'm sure was against the protesters, right? So there's a lot more here. This is, again, talking about how much did they talk about anti-Semitism versus divestment on any of the Sunday shows. ABC, CBS, NBC, 0 discussion about divestment, which is what the main thing that the college protesting kids were trying to accomplish. They didn't even want to mention it. Again, this is where we're talking about how corporate media shapes a narrative and doesn't allow what actually happened to be told because it doesn't fit with the story they want told. All right. All right. There were 2 questions asked about the safety of Jewish students, by which CNN meant pro-Israel Jewish students, as many Jewish students took part in the encampments, of course. 42% of young Jewish Americans say Israel's response to October 7th is unacceptable. They'll never tell you that. Only 1 question was asked about the safety of Muslim students on CNN, even though both groups reported feeling almost equally unsafe. What a surprise.
Yeah.
All right. And this, again, even getting into the weekly news shows, they barely had any students or activists or protesters. All right. Slightly more variation across the networks, but not much. All right. A lot, again, of pro-Israel supporting students, but not a lot of Palestinian supporters and ending the genocide and stopping arms sales. All right. CNN here, the show with the 2nd highest number of official government guests, featured more centrists than did Hannity. Jared Moskowitz said that while it's their First Amendment right to protest, for students to say such as go back to Poland or bomb Tel Aviv or kill all the Zionists was not acceptable, a message similar to those frequently heard on the Sunday shows, except they perfectly are fine saying that about the Palestinians and level Gaza and destroy them all. That's fine. All right. Robert Kraft, owner of the New England Patriots, and of course a major donor to Columbia University, was invited to speak about encampments 3 times, more times than student protesters spoke across all 4 shows. It's disgraceful. I mean, they don't give anyone a voice. Of course, they talked about the police violence and then blamed it on the students. They talked, okay, again, how often did they talk about divestment? Not much more. They never talked about it on Fox. What a surprise. All right. Then you have all these newspaper op-eds. So a really good piece over at FAIR. I'm not always the biggest fan of these guys, but their analysis, I mean, this is just statistical analysis of what were they talking about on each show, and within each publication, how much did they focus on anti-Semitism? Look at that. The USA Today, 86% of its coverage mentioned anti-Semitism, while only 29% mentioned the real reason behind the protests. So that's fair. Fairness and accuracy in reporting. That's what FAIR stands for.